Alright, so today I want to show you some of the ball pythons that I have here in my reptile room. I actually just went through and did a count of all of my snakes because I didn't really know how many snakes that I had. And come to find out, I have 79 ball pythons. And some of those I actually have posted over on Morph Market. So I'm constantly hatching them out and selling them, and the number of ball pythons constantly changes. But what I want to do today, instead of showing you every single ball python that I have in my reptile room, I just want to pull out some of the more interesting snakes. I want to show you some of my holdbacks and how they're doing. I have some that have really changed in color and pattern as they matured a little bit, which is pretty interesting. I want to show you one of my female breeders that have been really stubborn. She just refuses to lay eggs, but she is absolutely beautiful. Probably one of the most amazing ball pythons that I have here in my collection. And I guess I could start with the snake that I have around my neck here. This is Bobby, my bamboo ball python. And believe it or not, he's 9 years old this year, which is pretty amazing. He was born in 2013. He's not the oldest here in my collection, but as far as I know, he's actually one of the oldest bamboos. Especially if you actually go over to Morph Market and look at bamboos that have sold and searched by the oldest bamboo. Bobby is the #1 oldest bamboo that's ever been sold over on Morph Market. And what I really want to do today with Bobby is I want to get a weight on him and see if he's gained any weight or lost any weight. I think the last time I weighed him, he was about 2,800 grams, which is really huge for a male ball python. And then he went on a really long fast and didn't eat for, I think, of like 3 months. He didn't eat at all. And then he finally came back on food, and he's eating pretty much every week or every other week. So he's doing pretty good, looking pretty chunky. He almost looks like a female. He's so big. But I want to get a weight on Bobby, and then I'm just going to start going through my racks, pulling out some of these amazing snakes, and I want to give you an update on some of the really awesome snakes here in my collection. Alright, so here is Bobby. Take a look at this big old snake. He is really big. He's just a straight bamboo with no other genes. And bamboo is a co-dominant gene. So if you breed it to something else, half the offspring come out as bamboo. It's also in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. So if you breed two bamboos together, 25% of the time you'll end up with a completely white snake with blue eyes, which is pretty awesome. And the other thing I find kind of interesting with bamboos is a lot of them have these hearts on the side in the pattern, which you'll see. It's kind of an indicator that you just have a straight bamboo. Sometimes if you work other genes in, sometimes it'll jumble up the pattern and you'll kind of lose that heart pattern on the side of the snake. The other thing I noticed on this guy is when he was younger, take a look at the top of his head. The top of his head was really clear when he was younger, and as he got older and older, some tiny little spots came in, and now it's almost completely black on top of his head, which is kind of interesting. He keeps changing in color, just mainly on the top of his head. And I want to get a weight on this guy, so I'm going to turn on my scale, see what he comes in at. I'm guessing he's maybe close to 3,000 grams. He's pretty big. See what he's coming. Ooh, he's over 3,000. Oh, wow. 3,157 grams. He's a really big snake. All right, so take a look at this beauty. This is one of the most stunning snakes in my entire collection. This girl's name is Frosty, and she's actually a visual desert ghost with the addition of pastel and spider. So kind of interesting with this one. This one has the spider gene in it, and some people kind of frown on the spider because of potential head wobbles and neurological issues. And this girl has no head wobble at all. Zero head wobble for being a spider. Look at how beautiful that is. And the frustrating thing about this girl is she's coming up on 6 years old and has never laid eggs. I'm hoping this is the year she lays some eggs. I don't know what's going on with this girl. She's got a problem with fertility. Usually only the deserts do, but not the desert ghosts. So this girl's coming in, if I can keep her in the tub, 3,106 grams. So she's a really good looking snake. If she would lay, I'm actually breeding her with another visual pastel desert ghost. It's a pastel Enchi desert ghost male. So it looks almost exactly like this with a little bit of a difference in pattern because it doesn't have the spider in it. But if I can actually breed these two together and get some offspring, I get a whole clutch of snakes that look like this, which would be pretty awesome. So this snake is kind of interesting. We named this one Magnum. And this actually came from a coral glow that I bred to a lemon blast, which is a pastel pinstripe. And when it first hatched out, it was really super dark. And I always thought in that coral glow, I had some kind of an unknown gene that was mixed in with that coral glow. And every now and then it would mix with another coral glow and kind of darken the coral glows. And it seemed like it eliminated the spots in my coral glows. I wasn't quite sure what it was. So this, I actually tried to separate that gene for the last few years, and I think this is actually kind of the mystery gene that's floating around in that coral glow. Not exactly sure what this is. I don't think it's just a straight pastel, although it could be a really dark pastel. This is actually a female. It's one of my kind of hold back dinker projects. Just kind of have it marked as a dinker. it's a 50% het pied, possible pastel maybe, because it has a lot of yellow. And kind of the interesting thing, when it was younger, it didn't have a lot of the yellow in it. And as it kind of got older, it's turned from a really dark snake to almost looks like a really dark pastel, although it's a lot darker. Look at how dark it is, almost completely black in spots on the snake, which is pretty interesting. I think the first thing I'm going to do with this girl, once she gets to breeding size, is breed a pastel back to her and see if I can make some super pastels. Then I would know for sure if it's a pastel or not. I don't think it's a pastel, but it's kind of an interesting snake. Has a clear belly. Be interesting to see what this one turns out to be. It's always nice to kind of play around with some new, interesting, dinker, unknown projects. We can get a weight on that one. That one's already 361 grams, which is pretty amazing. She's doing really well. Alright, so this is kind of my pride and joy from the year. I finally produced an albino pied female. Take a look at this one. I produced, I think it was 3 albino pied visuals this year. 2 of them were males and 1 was a female. And I produced one a couple years ago, and I was actually showing it off in a video, and some guy offered me pretty good money for it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sell it. And, you know, I could always produce another one. And then it took me a couple of years to finally produce this girl. But look at how beautiful she is. Absolutely stunning. And when I bought my albino pied, I think they were selling for like $1,500. They've come down quite a bit since then. This is actually a female, so I could breed it to a male. I actually have a male albino pied, so then I'll get a whole clutch of albino pieds, which is pretty awesome. And the weight on this girl, let's see what she's coming in at. 243 grams. So kind of the interesting thing with this one is she was on live mice only for the first part of her life. Well, I'd say probably the first 2 months. As a matter of fact, I still have 2 hatchlings that are on live only that were kind of born kind of late, and for some reason they refuse the frozen thaw. So sometimes that can really slow down their progression. But you know, once they get over to frozen thaw, they grow super fast. This girl is doing well on frozen thawed mice and rats, and this one is not for sale. In a couple of years I'll produce a whole clutch of these, and then I'll probably have some of these for sale, which would be pretty awesome. Alright, so take a look at this crazy looking snake. This was kind of interesting. When it first hatched out, it was completely white, and it kind of has almost blue eyes, kind of like almost like a slate gray or kind of like a blue eye. And at first I thought it was a blue-eyed leucistic, and from the breeding it was impossible to get a blue-eyed leucistic. I was like, this is the impossible white snake. I actually did a video on it, and come to find out, after it matured a little bit and actually turned into, it was kind of weird. At first it had this really faint color and pattern up on the top, and as it gets older and older, that pattern is really getting stronger and stronger, which is pretty amazing. So this guy, this is actually a female. This is a bamboo. So this actually has the bamboo gene. This would be Bobby's granddaughter, I guess you would say. This is actually a bamboo pastel pinstripe calico. 50% het desert ghost too. Boy, if I could get desert ghost into something like this, that would be pretty awesome. But if you actually take a look at the eyes, I don't know if you can kind of see the eyes on the camera, but the eyes almost look blue on this one, which is kind of unusual for something like this. Really cool looking snake. This is kind of like, I'd say this is like the crown jewel of the whole breeding season. This and that albino pied female. The albino pied female is the one I've been wanting a long time. And then this one just kind of surprised me. How it looks really crazy. Look at how high up the white comes with the calico, bringing in the high white with the bamboo. That is pretty crazy. And from the belly, it looks really super white. That is a pretty awesome snake. This is definitely not for sale. This will be a really good breeder, breeding it with some other combinations. Alright, so take a look at this wild snake. This is the first time I produced anything like this. It seems like it's getting brighter and brighter the older it gets. This one actually is a lemon blast, the pastel pinstripe, and then it has the calico in it. So essentially this is exactly the same as the last one, but without the bamboo. And I'm actually holding this one back. This is another female. And the reason I'm holding it back is because it looks really cool. One of the coolest looking snakes that I've ever seen. Even though it's a really simple combination, it's just a lemon blast with the calico in it. And my calico, it brings in a lot of the dark. You can see this one almost looks like there's a dark gene in there. That's because my version of calico really brings in a lot of the dark of the dark color in the snake, which is pretty interesting. And then in some combinations, my calico, I actually bring in almost like a coppery color, almost like a copper penny color, which is kind of interesting. You don't really see the copper color in this one. I think because the pastel is just, the pastel is so bright on this one, which is, it's interesting because I have different versions of pastel here in my collection. Some of the pastels are really super bright like this one, and some of them aren't quite as bright, but this one is really super bright. Alright, so this one I call my miracle snake. This is like 1 in 1,000 shot that I actually got this. Believe it or not, this is a female banana produced from a male maker. So usually if you have a male maker banana, you breed it to something else. All the banana offspring are almost always bananas. It's the same thing with corglows. And I've been breeding corglows for 6 years. And every year I produce like, you know, probably 12 or 15 corglow combinations, and every single one has always been a male from that male maker. And this one just randomly happened to be a female, which is pretty awesome. So this one's actually, this is a female, this is actually a female banana pinstripe. I thought it actually, when it first hatched out, I thought it had pastel in it, but usually you can tell if it has pinstripe. The kind of the giveaway is that the pastel will really jumble up the pinstripe pattern. You can see this one kind of has the scrunched up alien heads that you'd see on a regular pinstripe. So I can guarantee that this one does not have pastel in it, just based on the pinstripe pattern on the side. Although if you have pastel in your bananas, the banana is so visually dominant it completely hides the color of your pastel, unless you have something like kind of an indicator gene like the pinstripe that, you know, really changes its color. The other kind of interesting thing, it looks like it has a little dirt right on the side of the snake right there. That is a paradox. It's part of the pattern in the snake, which is kind of interesting. So this is a banana pinstripe 100% het clown female. This actually came from my banana Enchi clown, which is pretty amazing. And this is a female, so I'll definitely be breeding this one. Looking forward to producing some stuff with this. And then keep in mind, when you breed something to a female coral glow or a banana, Now, all the offspring will be half males and half females. You get 50-50. And then all the males that come from the female will actually be female makers. So you breed those to something else, all the offspring that are bananas will be females. And I've had so many people ask me for female bananas. It's pretty amazing. So this one is 300 grams exactly. Pretty nice for a fairly new hatchling on this one. Really excited about that project. Getting some female makers because I have so many male bananas and corglos. I definitely am looking forward to some females. Alright, so take a look at this monster. This is a really exciting project right here. This is my Lemon Blast scaleless head. I kind of wanted to show you the head on this one. Look at how high of an expression of a scaleless head that is. Really super high expression. And this girl, she started eating like crazy. Look at how big she is. Just like overnight, she exploded in the growth, started eating really huge rats, like really frequently, which is really amazing. I'm actually breeding this one to a lesser scaleless head male. So 25% of the offspring should be completely scaleless ball python, and those completely scaleless will actually have pastel, pinstripe, and lesser all mixed in, which is pretty amazing. This girl is chunky. Let me get a weight on this one. She is really looking fantastic. I didn't think she'd ever get to weight. She's coming in at 2,200 grams. Really awesome girl right there. That's exciting. Alright, so take a look at this one. This is actually my lesser scaleless head male that I'm breeding to those two Lemon Blast scaleless heads and the other pastel scaleless head females. And this guy just looks like a regular lesser ball python, except he has a few scales missing right from the top of his head. You can actually see just barely, you can see barely scales missing from the top of his head. As a matter of fact, on these scaleless heads, if you're not sure if it's a scaleless head, you can actually look at the last vent, the scale right before the vent, right there. If you can see that, and that scale is actually split up and down into two scales. And if you look at a regular ball python, I actually looked at my whole collection at every single non-scaleless head ball python, and every single one had one solid scale right before the vent. And all my scaleless heads are actually split right into two scales, which is an interesting way to see if you have a scaleless head. I've seen some people say they had ball pythons with no scales missing from the head, but the last scale by the vent was split in half. And I'm betting it's just almost like almost a zero expression scaleless head that someone didn't look at the scale right by the vent to see if it actually was a scaleless head. But this guy, he's a little bit younger than those females, but he's plenty big enough. You know, males, usually they only have to be like 500 grams. And this guy, I'd say he's probably maybe about 1,000 grams, something like that. Oh, see if I can get him in the bucket here. Oh, he's not even that much. 826 grams. So he's still a pretty small male, but he's definitely big enough to breed. Alright, so take a look at this crazy snake. So this is, I think this is a world's first on this one. This actually is part of my triple het project that I've been working on. So this one's actually a lesser triple het. It's het for albino, het for pied, and het for clown. Albino, pied, clown. I actually have 2 females and 1 male that I'm holding back for these guys. And then I have some more triple hets that I'm actually breeding this year. I don't think they're gonna lay any eggs. They look like normal ball pythons, but they're triple het for the albino, pied, and clowns. So I actually have 2 females and 1 male from that one. So I actually have 4 females and 2 males that are triple hets, which is pretty powerful. Albino pied clowns. I can't wait to actually get into that project. And if I actually hit a visual with an albino pied clown, I'm going to breed that to something else. Not sure exactly what other recessive I'm going to mix with it. I was thinking maybe something like a desert ghost or something, and go for the quadruple het. And you know, if you're actually working with triple hets or quadruple hets, if you really want to cut down your time on the project, what you really need to do is have multiple females that you can breed, so you can speed things up. Because let me tell you, if you just had like one triple hat, one male and one female, and you tried to breed them together, it would take like, you know, 15 years statistically to produce a visual. And then if you didn't hit the odds, you'd be like, you know, working for 20 years just to hit your first one. And then every time you have another female, you can reduce the amount of time in half. So with 4 females, you know, 10 years turns into like 2.5 years, which is pretty awesome. This guy's pretty squirrely, not used to being held hardly at all. This is one of the last ones that hatched out here in my collection. That's why she's a little bit smaller, but still a really good looking snake. Crazy how the triple head kind of jumbles up the pattern on the lesser. It's pretty wild. All right, so take a look at this crazy looking snake. This is one I'm holding back too. This is, I guess you'd call it a Stinger Super Blast. This is an Enchi Super Pastel Pinstripe, 100% het Desert Ghost. Just think of all those genes working it into my Desert Ghost project. And probably the best Desert Ghost that I've ever seen is working pastel into Desert Ghost. It makes it really super bright, and it really retains its brightness as the snake ages and matures. And I was kind of hoping this was a female, although I really don't have any males that have so many genes in my Desert Ghost project. So this is definitely going to be a good one to hold back. And if I could actually produce the visual Desert Ghost with all these genes in it, I would probably eventually, you know, sell this and then upgrade, kind of have him replaced by the visual with the Enchi Super Blast Desert Ghost, which would be a pretty awesome combination. All right, so take a look at this one. This is a Super Pastel 100% het Desert Ghost. As a matter of fact, I haven't even probed this to see if it's a male or a female, which is kind of crazy. It doesn't really matter if it's a male or a female. I'm definitely holding it back. Anything Super Pastel in my collection, and I am definitely holding it back. Kind of going for a lot of the triple recessive, quadruple recessive stuff, and I'm trying to kind of work the Super Pastel in through my entire collection, which is pretty awesome. So if you actually breed a Super Pastel to a Super Pastel, you'll get 100% Super Pastels in your clutch, which is pretty awesome. And you can definitely see he's got some really crazy patterns. Usually with the Super Pastels, they have the lighter head, especially in the back of the top of the head. That kind of gives it away that they're a Super Pastel. And they usually have like these light highlights all along the top of the snake. And usually with your pastels, Super Pastels, your Lemon Blast, they all have pretty much a clear belly on all those. This guy's getting pretty chunky though, doing really good. All right, so here's another one that's pretty interesting. This is a Coral Glow that I hatched out. This one's 50% het pied. Well, it has a 50% chance that it's pastel. I'm thinking this one is pastel because you can see kind of a lighter head on this one. And kind of the thing, I don't think I've ever held back my hatchlings. Usually I sell my hatchlings really quick in the fall, and I've had them so long they're already starting to get spots and freckles all over the place. But look at how beautiful it is with the pastel that really lightens it, and then all the little freckling that comes in, which is pretty awesome. So this guy's name is Pee-wee. He's a male Coral Glow. I'm pretty sure he's pastel, 50% het pied, and he's a male maker. So everything that this guy breeds with, all the Coral Glow offspring will be males. This guy is really super shy. He's trying to hide his head so you can't see his eyes. He got really pretty eyes though. Pretty awesome little snake. And then of course with your Coral Glows, they all pretty much have the clear bellies on your Coral Glows. He's getting really chunky too. All right, so here's another one. This one's pretty interesting. This one I have posted over on Morph Market 2. This is a Lemon Blast Coral Glow. So it has the pastel, the pinstripe, and the Coral Glow. This is a male and a male maker. Also 50% het pied. And for some reason I have a really hard time trying to capture the beauty of these over on Morph Market in a picture. It's for some reason it's really hard to photograph these. I don't know if it's because of the color and the lights or the contrast, or I don't know if it'll show up better on the camera, but he's a really beautiful snake. And it's kind of interesting, they start young with a lot of high contrast, and then they kind of lose that high contrast and get a lot more yellow as they age and mature. And you can see this one with the addition of the pastel and the pinstripe, it kind of diminishes the amount of freckling. And depending on the genes can diminish the freckling or they can enhance it. Usually a lot of your dark genes will give you more freckles. So if you add like black pastel to a coral glow, it'll give you pretty much the most freckles that I've ever seen on a coral glow or a banana, which is pretty awesome. So here's another one that I've never showed anybody. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even sure I had it in my collection. Haven't even probed this one. So over on Morph Market, I'm limited to 15 snakes, and I've sold some. I need to go through and take pictures of these and post them over there. But this one is a pastel 100% het desert ghost. If it's a female, it's definitely more in high demand than the males. But even as a male, it'd be a really nice breeder. And let me tell you, if you actually produce the pastel desert ghosts, they are absolutely spectacular. So this guy would be a really good breeder. I'd say he's probably going up on Morph Market here. Oh, I think I actually have one over there. I have one posted over there, I think still. I can't remember what I sold and what I still have on Morph Market. The snakes go so fast over there. It's kind of crazy. And then of course with your pastels, usually they have just a little bit of freckling sometimes on the belly, which is kind of typical for your pastels. So it's a pretty interesting looking snake, pretty simple genetics. We're going over on Morph Market pretty soon, some point. All right, so here's the last one I want to show you. This is a beautiful pinstripe. Take a look at this. I absolutely love the pinstripe gene. It's pretty much the goldest snake that you can get. Kind of has the scrunched up alien heads. And it seems like my pinstripes are really super bright gold, which is pretty awesome. And the problem with this guy is ever since he hatched out, he's been on live only, and I cannot get him over to a frozen thawed. As a matter of fact, this year it was kind of weird because I think I had like 8 snakes that were stuck on live only, and eventually some of them like held on for like 2 months, which is kind of crazy. And then I finally transitioned them over to a frozen thawed. They're all on frozen thawed except this one, and then I have one more that's stuck on live, absolutely refuses frozen thawed for some reason. I can't figure it out. I've never really seen it before. This is kind of interesting. It almost has letters, like upside down letters. I never really noticed that before. Let me see if I can show you this. It almost spells something upside down. It looks like there's a little A, upside down A right there, if you can actually see that. Like little words or hieroglyphics or something on the side of the snake, which is pretty interesting. So if I can eventually get this one over to frozen thawed, I'll definitely be posting this one over on Morph Market. As a matter of fact, I haven't even probed this to see if it's a male or a female. So this is a pinstripe 100% het clown too, which is pretty awesome. I absolutely love the pinstripe clowns. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the show, seeing all the interesting snakes here in my collection. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.